Hit the lights, it's almost 8 p.m. Woo! Skips is gonna be so surprised when he comes in and sees us totally naked. It's not that kind of party, muscle man. Oh. Don't turn on the lights.
We all know Regular Show is the GOAT, right? Well, here's the thing. It started out so good, but then it changed. And I want to take this opportunity to explain why I think that is. Does it mean that it got bad? We'll discuss that. Stay tuned and learn why I think the show really drifted away from what made it so special. If you aren't familiar with the age-old story, Regular Show started with creator J.G. Quintel's 2 college films, The Naive Man from Lollyland and 2 in the AM/PM, Naive Man being really short, and the other having more of a legitimate story and character development. 2 in the AM/PM also happened to be a lot more adult in its language.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
I don't know for certain that Regular Show was supposed to be on Adult Swim, but I know it did push its TV PG boundaries during its first season while being on a kids network.
You pissed me off.
I loved it so much, and I still do. The mix of the more raw animation as they try to figure out the look and tone of the show, and the edgier dialogue and more adult jokes make for a hilarious, fresh, and really enjoyable first season. The biggest difference between seasons 1 and 2, I would say, are edgier jokes are cut down on, acceptable language is changed. In fact, they made new censored cuts of season 1 episodes to air and put on all the physical media starting in late 2013. And the show hones in on its visual style and is more consistent when it comes to the articulation of the characters. Honestly, I feel like all of those changes are for the worse. I could go back and forth about the animation becoming more streamlined as it looks nicer in one sense, to be more uniform and less jumpy, but I also love the rawer look. It just feels fresh and artistic. Less of corporate control and more of, hey, each frame is a piece of art. Most animated shows go through it, but it's kind of annoying, frankly. Story-wise, the show is the same, I feel like for the first 3 seasons anyway. They have a good formula and they stick to it. Until they don't. Kind of. During the first 3 seasons, most of the adventures take place in the park, and the outside world is just used to further plot points. There are the occasional episodes focused on places outside of the park, but the main draw is the endlessness of it. There's so many places to have the episodes take place, and they never specify boundaries, so the setting is up to whatever the writer wants it to be. I think that's a really key point, sticking within the setting that works. I noticed as they started branching out and entering the real world more, it felt like it lost some of its magic. It became more mundane and less mystical. That helped lose a lot of charm, in my opinion. Another big problem was the introduction of so many recurring characters that just weren't that interesting. It's fine to have a few side characters here and there, but people like Thomas and CJ just messed with the already well fleshed out dynamics between all the park employees and Margaret and Eileen. That's really all they needed. But no, 3 seasons in, they decide to add CJ, and in the 4th season, they add Thomas. It was completely unnecessary and messed with the balance of things. I do think it's good to have some character arcs and changes. Otherwise, the show can get a little bland. But they don't need a lot. I think having a final season that finishes their story is cool, but too much time and development in the seasons leading up to it were spent on things that weren't really that entertaining. Basically what I'm saying is, Mordecai's love shit is annoying, Thomas didn't need to show up as no real repercussions resulted from him being a spy, and CJ was not necessary as the writers were clearly building up for Mordecai and Margaret to finally get together. And then for some reason, they just changed their mind. When you change the characters too vastly, it changes the tone of the show. Their actions are different, and I suppose in general, Regular Show just added unnecessary elements to a formula and a cast of characters that was working really well. I really did enjoy episodes like Death Bear and Camping Can Be Cool, and those were both set outside of the park and were mainly Mordecai, Rigby, Margaret, and Eileen. And that's fine. They were good, purposeful characters and interesting enough to keep around. It also feels like Regular Show got too mainstream, as if executives were like, just throw in a few more characters. You need them. And artistically, it got to look too perfect with the animation and characters. They felt a lot stiffer, less expressive, and less like each frame was an art piece. The overcomplication of the characters, I feel like, was a huge detriment to the show. I started to really miss the adventures of hating to do work and trying to have fun while you get through it. The show got too close to home. It got too real. Instead of fighting over a stupid old couch, you have Mordecai being legitimately depressed about a relationship. I liked when the show was escapism, not a mirror of my life. Again, it needs to be relatable, but they had something going, and then they just took it further than it needed to be. It was a comedy, not a story-driven show. I mean, sure, Adventure Time was kind of set up similarly, but there was already more of a story-driven feel from the beginning, in my opinion. Regular Show should have just stayed a comedy until maybe the final season. I mean, look at Phineas and Ferb. They had their formula and they stuck with it. All 4 seasons are great, and you know, they did a few episodes where the kids grow up, and that's cool. But regular show really just started to drift away from what made it so special after about season 3. And technically speaking, it did keep to its formula in some respects. A real task or outing would lead to something supernatural and not regular, but it lost its charm due to these changes. I still do enjoy the episodes from the later seasons, and I think they're good, but they're not the same. And I think this is true a majority of the time. TV shows are only so good for so long. For SpongeBob, it was the first 3 seasons, and the same goes for regular show. The Simpsons, however, was good for like 8 or 9, so it can vary, but most of the time, only a few seasons tend to be out of this world, I suppose. That's really it. Too many new characters that weren't terribly interesting or entertaining. It got too real. It focused too much on development and underutilized the park setting in the later seasons when it shouldn't have. It started to be less funny and less entertaining. I don't think it ever got bad, but it lost some of its magic. That begs the question, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. I really want to hear what you have to say. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.
Your eyes staring into my eyes. Who am I but a guy with 2 eyes on the prize? And the prize in my eyes is 10 times the surprise in your eyes as I kiss you goodnight. Your smile is the fire that rocks my soul. Gonna remember it until I grow old. Cause life is too short, we gotta do things right. So baby, let's just party tonight.